Add to stage. Hello.
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 Oh, you're inside this time.
I'm playing Fortnite at the moment. I'm kicking some serious butt, so I could not stop. All right. This was highly irresponsible of me to be playing Fortnite right before this, but I'm having a really good game. Anyways, how are you doing, Moongod? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I muted myself on accident. I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right, I mean, if we're gonna be delaying the AMA for you to finish up a game of Fortnite here, brother, you best be getting that victory royale.
There's no need to delay. I'm playing very recklessly right now, so I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah, he says as he's gonna spend the next 15 minutes in game.
Now, there's only 5 people left.
Well, then you better win.
I'm trying. I'm playing very, very aggressively. Let me tell you.
Well, listen, if you win, I think you need to do a $50 or 50 token 1 token giveaway. I think that's what you need to do.
Well, right now.
Well, if you win, yeah, let's make it happen.
If I win, if I win, yes, we'll give away 51 tokens.
That sounds like a plan to me. Let's do it.
Well, hopefully I win.
I believe in you, 1,000%. If you don't win, it needs to be 500. So
that is, I don't know if I can agree to that one because we just gave away. I think we just gave away 850 tokens.
That sounds like a plan. I'm gonna get some numbers pulled up on my side here real quick while you're finishing that out, and then we can pop right into it.
Sounds good.
Easy peasy.
I apologize, guys. I'm not.
All right.
This is straight out of like, I don't know. I don't even want to say. But I did not think this game would last this long. I usually get killed pretty quickly.
Well, I have faith in you. Go team, go.
Greek is saying that background looks good. Oh yeah. He's talking about the Prisma. Yeah. Thank you, Greek. As always, my friend. Thank you. I thought you meant like the living room.
Sorry, my youngest just showed up. So
no worries. How dare you be distracted?
I know, I'm the worst for that. All right, so I got the numbers on this side while you're finishing up the game. Charts have been updated. In case anyone was curious about it, I don't know if the Discord bots were updated as of yet. I'll have to check that in just a minute here and see what's going on there. Looks like they have got the February ones, which makes sense because they're supposed to be for last month and totals. So, good news. We had a pretty rock solid, past week here with Ray doing effectively 3.9%. And yeah, 3.9%. And awesome. The NFT side did 2.4%. The reason for that is mainly just the compounding side of things. So yeah, it's just had a little bit of a better situation there.
You mean because there's more money in the NFT side?
Well, yeah, because it's a larger amount in the NFT side, so it didn't have as much variable change or whatever it was. Basically, I'm gonna have to ask Callie about those numbers real quick. Yeah. So my and I don't know if he accidentally put in like 2.4% here. I gotta try and do the math. No, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's right. God, I'm losing my mind. For whatever reason, the Ray side of things did a slightly higher amount at 3.9%. The NFT side did 2.4%. So dollar value wise, it was $527 for Ray, and it was $2,053 for the NFT side of things. So the total amount of funds that we have. Did you win, by the way, or no?
No, I did not.
That's unfortunate. So the total amount of funds that we have in Ray is 26,737. On the NFT side, it's 104,074
What did I do? What did I do?
things. You hit me because you don't
Sorry.
like me currently.
So I was trying to type something and so I apologize.
It's okay. No judgment. So yeah, it was about a $2,053 gain on the NFT side, $527 gain on the Ray side of things. So
Awesome.
all in all, it turned out pretty good here. Can't complain.
Cool.
And again, that's just 1 week. So we're definitely looking at, a lot more gains as time kind of goes on as well too. We kind of are being a little more careful with, as we talked about, kind of like the shorts to long ratio. So it's a case where we're not opening up anywhere close to as many shorts as we are longs, which in basically just kind of with the way the market is moving, we're much happier to say, okay, we're going to open up a long on the east side at say $4,000 and take profit for it's going to be at 4,025. And it's like the total return on that might only be like $60 or whatever it is, for like the Ray side of things, and the comparative amount for the NFT side. But percentage wise, it might be like, 0.25% in a day or something like that. And the reason why we're doing that is we've set the bot to basically open up quite a few more longs than it does try to open up shorts, just because we feel like the market is trending upwards as we're kind of moving into the bull run and everything like that. And really, the way we normally get those big percentage returns in terms of like, the like, hey, 15, 20%, stuff like that. It's going to be a case where, we end up being in like a long or a short that ends up really just going our direction kind of thing.
Right.
So like one of the things that we could have happen, which would be absolutely phenomenal, would be we get into a long, there's a decent pullback. We're able to dollar cost average a little bit, and then it just skyrockets back up the other direction. We get out and, like we're looking at gold at that point in time. But even with all that being said, what we're doing is we're opening up a lot more longs than shorts, which means that we aren't, doing any dollar cost averaging really. We're just opening up a long, it hits the marker. We open up a long, it hits the marker. We open up a short, it hits the marker, and that could be over like a day or two or something like that. It could be like, 3 trades over 2 days, or it could be like 5 trades over 3 days or something like that. But it's still basically a situation where, we're not going to have nearly as many, crazy kind of like hole shots, so to speak.
And
We are. Sorry, go ahead.
What's the leverage you guys are using, or is it different all the time?
It depends on the market and the volatility as well. So based on
Does
that,
the bot decide what the leverage is?
we can change it if we decide to do so. But yeah, for the most part, we kind of just are letting the bot do its own thing. And depending on what it kind of wants to do, it'll open up a smaller position with higher leverage if it wants to do something a little more risky. Or if it's dollar cost averaging a little bit more, it may open up a smaller position, higher leverage, just so it doesn't have to spend nearly as much cash, so to speak. But yeah, it's a case where usually it's anywhere from 10 to about 100%, or 10 to 100, 10x to 100x. I said percent. I don't know where my brain is.
Because I'm just wondering, like, now that there's like 100,000 in the bot, I'm just like, for it to make like 10% this month, that would be 10,000.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, if we're going to be making that much percent of the total supply, then it's probably going to be using some leverage to achieve that, right?
Correct. Yeah, it is. It is absolutely using leverage. We've kind of pulled back the leverage a little bit on this, just mainly because, we don't want to run into a situation where like we have some crazy like hole shot where it's just like it goes to the moon or something insane like that. But we've had some very positive numbers so far through March. So we're pretty happy, and we feel like the bot, even if it does like 2K a week or something like that, throughout the next few months, it's going to compound as well.
Yeah.
So, the 2K this week could be 2.1K next week, and then the week after that it could be 2150, and then so on and so forth as it kind of works its way up. Even if it's still doing the same percentage month over month, like let's say 10%, if it
Right.
does 10% in the month, that's $10,000. Well, if the next month it does 10%, that's
$11,000.
$11,000. So it's
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm wondering. So is it using more money each trade, the more
correct.
money
Yeah.
that's in there? Okay. Is
Yeah.
it
So
what do you know, like what per, this might be a too technical of a question, but do you know what percent of the supply it uses per trade?
very low. So it's normally the largest trade that we've gotten into so far was the one a little bit further back, and that used about 20%.
Okay.
So the largest trade where we were in that short and then we flipped it to the long,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
about 20% is the amount of funds that we used in there.
yeah. Okay.
So hold on one second. My little one came to ask me a question. One moment.
No worries. No worries.
All right. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the question there. As it moves up, it's still going to remain using that same percentage, which I believe most of the time it trades at like 1-2%. So it's not a huge amount. Um, and that's basically the best way to kind of look at it is that we don't want to be trading, you know, like 50% of the given funds at any point in time. That is extremely dangerous. Just, if anything goes sideways, we want to have more than enough wiggle room where we can kind of rein things back in and make sure that we're being safe about it as well. So, yeah, that's kind of the process and the thoughts that we have behind the decisions that we make with how much the bot actually uses at any given time.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because I was just, we are excited about the compounding and whatnot. And I was just wondering how that works as the amount of money that's in the bot grows. I guess the bot just uses a larger amount of dollars each time.
Yeah.
Each
And to be clear, most people aren't really thinking about this, but we're considering like the 83K is where it started off with. Again, we weren't fully trading the full 83K, but we're
Yeah.
considering 83K the baseline for January 1, and we're
Okay.
already up to 104, which means that so far this year we've done over $20,000, about 21.
Yeah.
Um, and that's roughly in the first 2.5 months of it trading here. And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
really, this is the first month that we've had the full funds trading. So this first year is going to be a little bit slimmer, so to speak. But it's already done. If you want to look at the total amount, I think, give me one second. I'm going to just do some math really quick here. I don't
Mhm.
have my phone to pull out the calculator, but like whatever 21,000 over 83,000 is,
25%, something like that.
I think that's about right. It's like 24-25%, give or take
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have my handy dandy calculator right now that's on my phone, and my brain is too shot from work to be like, we're gonna math this. It's nope. Yeah, I think it's like 23-24% or something like that. So
And
I
that's
mean,
and that's from what, like a month and 3 weeks of not having the full amount in there.
correct, yeah.
So
That
what would that have been if the full amount was in there all 2 months and 1.5 weeks of this year already? It would have been,
so much more.
yeah.
So much more. Like we're talking like if the full amount would have been in there when we started, um, that like big trade, it's very possible we could have seen like 70% by right now, 80% roughly.
Jeez.
Because we have to
Crazy.
remember that the bot did 39% on the first half of the trades associated with it when we
Mhm.
were able to get out during that big dip. Um, or the big, run up. And then when it dipped, we were able to get rid of a lot of the shorts and then, come back in and grab some more. And that was about another 30% as well, too. So in total, it was roughly about 69%, 70%. So if we're looking at that, including what we've done right now, I would say we'd probably done well over 80% so far.
Nice. Yeah.
Assuming all things given. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to pan out for the rest of the year. But it's very much so a case where, again, assuming that the NFT bot would have been running the same time as the original Prisma bot that was running trying to recoup funds, that bot is up to 97% right now.
Nice.
So it
Nice.
did about I think it was like 23% or something like that prior to us moving to the V2 bot, which is when we started trading about a month or two after that on the Prisma One NFT side. So it would have been a case where, yeah, we probably would have done close to about a little over 80%, I would say, with compounding involved.
Cool.
So, yeah, it would have been wild.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Compounding is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, what it's going to be in the next few years here. Like I know we've thrown out some numbers and stuff like that, and I know people are fairly excited about it. But I mean, this is as crazy as it sounds to kind of say. This is like almost like the perfect time for us to have started this.
Yeah.
With the volatility that we're getting coming into the bull market and everything like that, and the halving and all of that. And again, I don't even think we're in the bull market yet. I think we're still a little ways out from it
I
because the halving is supposed to take place next month.
I mean
Um,
this will be like my first bull market that I experienced because I got into crypto at the very end of the last one,
right.
but
Same for me.
yeah, I've been hearing like that this is too early, so I'm wondering if there's going to be a correction at some point.
Well, I definitely think there will be a correction probably within the next 3 months, I would say, is probably going to be my bet. The positive that we might face, though, is that with the explosiveness that we've seen on both the Bitcoin and Ethereum side, and the amount of traditional finance funds that are literally just flooding into the market, I I think it's very likely that we won't see like a 40, 50, 60% pullback. We may see like a 20% pullback.
Hmm.
But there's that period of time after the halving where it's like we would see it drop back down like to old supports. And I'm not talking um like 40K kind of thing. I think it used to drop like 60% in some cases. So it's very much so an
Before the halving?
after the halving. Because
Oh,
what'll happen is all the way up to the halving, people buy, 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 and then
oh,
after the halving occurs, people sell, 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 sell.
oh, wow.
Um, and it's a way to kind of like have them take profit and get out. And this is just from what I've kind of seen and what I've heard. Again, I could be wrong, could be getting the time frame slightly off here.
Yeah.
Um, and so it would pull back like 40 to 60% and then skyrocket, you know, 80, 90, 100% within the next like month or two after that, you know,
Interesting.
and
Interesting.
all the way to like 3, 4, 500% on top of that as well, too. Cause you got to remember, like when we were looking at the last Bitcoin halving, we were at like, it was amazing when we hit like, I think it was like 18, 19K. And then it rolled all the way back down to like 8K. And then it came back up to about 14K, rolled back down to about 10K. And then it shot all the way up to 65, over
Wow.
like the next 6, 8 months, 1 year kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so it's this up and down around the halving that really kind of occurs. And as the same thing kind of happens here, I think we're not going to see as much of a pullback in that aspect where it comes back like 40%, 50%. I think we may see at the most it comes back like 20% because there's so much institutional funds that are out there that it's just going to gobble it all up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're gonna sell out, they're gonna take it 100%, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so I think it's one of those things where a lot of people who are just gonna dollar cost average through this bull run and through the ups and downs of the bull run, they're gonna make a ridiculous amount of money. I think that's gonna be the case.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna be the same for all tokens as well too. I mean, we've already seen, BNB, Ethereum, Bitcoin, they're all pushing all-time highs at this point.
Yeah.
They're closing in. Bitcoin just blew right through it. No questions asked. It's over 70K. It doesn't even care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it just pushed right through it like it was a joke.
Yeah.
And then Ethereum's lagging behind right now as well too. Right before the ETF is supposed to be announced for it, I believe at the end of this month is what Lucky keeps saying. So I think there's going to be even more volatility going into that as well. And then
Yeah.
BNB, which was lagging so far behind, was at like 420, 430 for a little while. It's well over 500 at this point, with
Yeah.
all-time high being somewhere, I believe, in like the 630 range.
Yeah.
It's
Something like
it's
that.
just crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we've got a lot of positives kind of, coming up for us, and a lot of positives we'll be able to take advantage of as well.
Awesome.
Versus, just sitting here and, not doing anything but staring at the wall. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
a lot of exciting stuff in the future for us, I think.
Yeah. And like you were saying, this is like the perfect time to have started this. And I think you guys have the perfect mindset for this because you guys are keeping the risk as low as you can. And it's like that's what you do. And it's like but you can still make these amazing percentages each month while keeping the risk very low because crypto is just absolutely impossible to predict and you just never know when some kind of like minor black swan thing or price dip or something the price can dip 10% in the next hour. Like this stuff
Yeah.
like that happens. And it's like with you guys taking the risk to the lowest degree that you can, we're protected from that stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know anybody that's ever done this before, like long-term compounding with a bot, like on the scale that we're doing it. I don't think anybody's ever done this. I guess you could say the Warfi kind of does it, but they do it month to month. Like you have to choose to reinvest and you have to pay like I don't know what it is, like 10% of the profits or something like that when
Yeah.
you reinvest. Like we're just reinvesting everything. It costs you guys nothing. I don't know. I just don't know anybody that's done this before. I maybe
Well,
there is someone, but I haven't heard of it.
I will say Warfi, as far as I'm aware, they're basically the month-to-month version of what we're doing. Versus this one, and that's again what the Prisma token is supposed to be as well too, is the month-to-month version versus the NFT, which is a much more long-term hold. And that's kind of the idea behind why we're doing this one. Is this one just allows us to accrue a lot more funds um in a much better period of time. So just to kind of give an example of such, because I did the math on all this when we were debating this early on and how we kind of wanted to do this and how we kind of wanted to explain it to people and the whole 9 yards with it. I mean, we had conversations, I think, for hours long in private chats and in DMs and stuff like that between team, the different teams where it's like, well, if we do it like this, what's the results over this period of time? This, that, and the other, and like what was coming out with it. And I think the most telling way that we were finally just like, no, this is the direction we have to go. This is the reason why we're going to do this like once a year versus like every single month is that, the compounding side of it allows to take a lot more just straight out the gate. And part of
Mm-hmm.
that is if you look at Warfi and if you look at the Prisma One NFTs, let's assume that we both did 5% every single month, but no one on the Warfi side is reinvesting and we're just not paying out anything, until the end of the year. Effectively, we could do 5%, each of us, this effectively 5% every single month. By the end, if we had the same amount of funds, because ours is only compounding and theirs is doing the payout every single month, we end up being able to pay out more by the end of the year. Now, again,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with their setup and their process. It's very much so a case where it's like, what do you prefer more? Do you prefer like one large lump sum at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, however we're going to do it? Or do you want to get paid out month to month and it's a little bit easier? And,
Yeah.
the process is there.
I think the argument for people who think monthly is better, or the other side probably views it as like bots don't tend to not have luck long term, which
Right.
is why you guys being so risk averse is perfect. Like that's the perfect way to do it, because I
Well,
mean, granted, Warfi has been working great for 2.5 years now.
Well,
So it can
that's
be
the
done.
counterpoint that I'm going to bring up is, the WarFi side of it. The trading bots almost never fail, is what I'm going to say. They almost never fail. Normally, what happens is it's team mismanagement or it's the team running away with the money. It's
Hmm.
like if a trading bot is going to fail, 99.999% of the time, you could repeat that into oblivion. It is the team is mismanaging and not being careful about the risk side of things, or the team has run away with the money.
Hmm.
Now, again, I'm not pointing any fingers at any specific teams that have done bot trading or anything like that. Just to be 100% clear there,
Right.
it's very much so a case where it's either of those in
Hmm.
most instances, which
Right.
means that the team didn't prepare for certain risk situations or things occurring, or they were too leveraged up, or they
Mhm.
they threw too much into a trade and then were levered up way beyond what they were capable of doing.
Right. Right.
And that's really the issue there, is that when you look at those processes, and Warfi is a prime example of how to be in this environment and be here long term. Their entire process is risk averse. Let's be
Yeah.
smart about the way that we're trading. Even if we do anywhere from, I believe their average returns is like 3 to 7% a month, with some of their months being absolutely crazy like ours are as well.
Hmm.
But they're a much less risk averse, thing than I would say even we are, to a certain extent, because our goal is, roughly around that 7 to 12%. So
Yeah.
we're obviously going to have just a tad more risk than they are if they're looking for like 3 to 7%. And again, I'm not saying that makes them better or worse, but it's like on a scale of like risk in terms of 1 to 100, they're like a 0.005 and we're like a 0.01,
Yeah.
we're like a point 0.1 or something like that, where it's like
Right.
we're very careful about what we do and the positions that we get ourselves into. And that's why we have all these other processes built out to protect us on both sides.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think Warfi has shown. Yeah, you can trade bots for years without ever having any kind of issue. And unless something like really gets like out of pocket, there's absolutely no reason to believe that this bot could not run for the next 15 years without us ever doing anything crazy. Obviously, we need to be there to manage a couple of things here and there, like if something happens, like what happened with the short. You know, we
Yeah.
allowed the short to continue as long as we believed it possibly could, and then flipped it the other direction, for safety purposes. And
Right.
that's the reason why we built our bot the way that we did, is that, we got into a position where we did not feel comfortable if we had just continued to let it go. And, we flipped it the other direction. And it's something we had actually had multiple conversations and meetings about, internally on the Prisma side. And we went the direction that we felt was going to be the safest. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
it paid out 70%, which is crazy to say. You know,
Yeah.
most people will be like, no, we're just going to double down, keep risking it all and just go for it. And it's like, no, we literally just flipped it the other way. And we were like, hey, we understand, we'll get into this. It may take us longer to get out. And it did take us longer than most, but we ended up doing 70% over like 3-4 months, which is
Yeah.
absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
That's about 15% every single month. That's insane, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit more technically. So yeah, it's very much so a case where we wanted to be, very, very safe. And we used as like an example, I mean, we didn't copy their code or anything, but we used as an example like Warfi, you know, their pillars are, their holders, safety and security, and the funds being safe and secure as well too. So I
Yeah.
mean, they're a prime example, and I would say that they are, one of the other projects that I feel most confident recommending to people. Like if they want to get into a trading bot, we obviously, if somebody wants to buy one of our NFTs, I know they're going for like a gojillion amount of BNB right now. Go for it. But if you're looking for one that I don't believe costs you an arm, leg, and a kidney to get into either, Warfi is absolutely the way to go if you want to, expose yourself to some trading bots and do it in a very safe way, and they're coming up on, I believe, 3 years at this point, if they haven't already passed it. And that's just stellar. They're
Yeah.
they're proof that mismanagement or a team stealing the funds is the only way to really lose when you're trading with a bot, as long as you're doing it correctly. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Speaking of buying a Prisma One, the Prisma One NFTs are now verified on Tofu NFT. So if you want to list your one of your Prisma NFTs, if you have like 10 of them and you want to list one of them to pay for the other 9, something like that, then you can do it. It's verified. That way, people will know that they're not buying a fake. And full disclosure, there is a 5% tax on it that will go to the teams. We figured that 5% was reasonable. So if you were to sell it for, let's say, $1,000, then what would 5% be, like $50?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's slightly higher than that though, because Tofu has their fee attached on top of it as well, if memory
what
serves.
is their fee? Like 2 or 3%?
I think it's like 2.5%. So I think in
Okay.
total it'll end up being like 7.5% or something like that. It'll tell you what it is when you go in there, but
Yeah.
the team has only placed a 5% fee on it.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of kind of what I was bringing up last time is, we're moving into these different market setups and things like that, where we're looking at some of those options, because it also gives us a lot of flexibility for some of the stuff we want to do in the future. Um, because the one team has got NFTs that are out there as well too,
And
and
those
it's
are those are verified as well. I
yeah,
checked on that this morning.
and it's very much so where I guess you can take it greedy or not, but if we're gonna have like a 5% fee on something, we don't want to pay somebody else, a fee on top of that to have these NFTs be sold. So we're looking at some options in there. Again, I got a little bit excited last time, get a little bit zealous every once in a while, but yeah, it's very exciting to have them up there. It gives us a lot more exposure. Allows us to kind of really expand upon, the mentality and the mindset that we have, where it's like, hey, we're looking at long term crypto, and again, that doesn't mean like 50 years. That means we're taking what would take 50 years in traditional finance, and we're trying to crunch it down to like 10, 15 years kind of thing. So like,
Less, probably less than that. that's
yeah, well, I'm
that's
trying to be
being
conservative.
conservative.
I'm trying to be conservative. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a case where, we're looking at like what would take 10, 15, 20, 25, 50 years, so on and so forth in traditional finance, and like really just kind of crunch that down. Um, as like an example of such, um, most people are looking to have like 100% over about a 7 to 10 year time frame in terms of 100% returns. Well, we're at 97% right now on the Ray side of things, and that was started back at the end of June, early July, and
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
even accounting for about the 2 months that it's been down. It's a little bit shy of 2 months there that it was down. So we're looking at roughly about 8 months. So in 8 months, we did what somebody is looking to do in about 7 to 10 years of like perfect market scenario. So
Things go quicker in crypto, and on top of that, we're not taking any fees out of it, because I think the reason that when you put your money like in a mutual fund, the reason it takes so long to double is because the person managing that fund or the people managing that fund are taking profits out of it every month, and that's affecting the compounding. We're not taking anything out of it.
Correct.
So everything is just compounding over and over. And the only time that we'll take anything out of it is when the money gets sent out to you guys as well. So you guys know all this, though.
Yeah, and to kind of further explain that as well too, a big chunk of what we're looking to do is continue to like reinvest that. One of the things that I've been just personally debating and going back and forth on, in terms of setup is, what if we just continued, and didn't move to like stage 3 until we're over like $100 million. And the reason why I'm thinking like that is in 7 years, we'd be coming up on the second bull run, most likely. Because normally with crypto, it's having bull run, or having small pullback, bull run, big pullback into like crypto winter for like a year or two. And then halving comes up again. We see, people get excited, more money pours in. Having happened, small pullback, bull run again. And that's roughly where we'd be going into our second crypto winter, is when we'd be hitting that 7%. Now, assuming that the market does anywhere close to what it's done historically, we could potentially see anywhere from 100 to 150,000 in Bitcoin during this bull run. I'm not going to be like egregious and overzealous and be like, yeah, it's going to get to $1 million. So trying to keep it realistic. Normally, with each bull run, it doubles and then a little more. And that's kind of roughly where it gets to. So with last bull run, I believe it got up to 68, 69,000. So if we're looking at that doubling and then a little, we'd probably be at about the 120 to 150 range, not being too crazy. So the second bull run, we'd probably be at about the 300 to 350 range, maybe, assuming that's the case there. And then we'd be looking at coming into the bear market. Well, if it continues to expand in the way that it is doing, we're going to retain roughly the same percentage in terms of size. And what I mean by that is, even if we are trading, say, $15 million in funds at the 7-year mark or something like that, or like the 6-year mark, I'm just throwing out some timeframes around what we've talked about historically, we may have such a large change in the market, an increase in the market, especially like on Bitcoin, Ethereum, stuff like that, that it's very possible that we could continue just trading as per normal all the way up into 100, 150, 200 million at that point in time, without changing the market in any way, shape, or form, because the market has expanded as much as it has. Now, again, there's a lot of facets that come into that. There's a lot of things where it could, not go that direction at all. But one of the things that we've kind of considered as well is, if we do get up to 100,000, we can basically 100% de-risk down to trading like anywhere from 2 to 4% per month.
100 million you meant.
Yeah, 100 million. Did I said 100,000, didn't I?
100,000, yeah.
Yeah, if you get up to like 100 million,
yeah,
we can get to the point where we're trading anywhere from like 2 to 4% a month. And that would be the same as us doing roughly 15% per month at $15 million.
Let's figure out what that would do.
Yeah. So it would be a case where, we'd be paying out roughly the same amount, but absolutely no risk on our side. Like so much pulled back risk, it'd be insane.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that I've been playing with some numbers over here to just kind of see what we can do within about that 7 to 10 year range. Just to kind of give people an idea of the way that we look at things. And for us, it's much easier to, have a larger amount of funds and then just de-risk entirely and just get to the point where we're doing like 2 to 4%, 2 to 5%, at the most. And then just let it do its thing. And then each person gets paid out 6 figures per NFT.
So 100 million. Yeah. Amen to that. That'd be awesome. 100 million at 3% a month for a year turns into 142 million roughly. So it's 42 million.
Right.
Now, 50% of that goes to NFT holders if we're still in stage 2.
So at that point, if we hit 100 million, we'd be in stage 3.
Okay.
Like that's
So then 90% of that, 42.
Yeah. So it'd
90,
be
37.8 million would go out
correct.
to NFT holders. 37 point. Yeah. Hold on. I don't know if I can put that big of a number. 37
I did the math on it. It's about
divided
170,000 per NFT, give or take just a little bit.
If it's 38 million,
I believe it should be roughly like 170,000 per NFT, give or take.
divided by 500, I get 76,000.
76?
Yeah.
Okay, 76. I did my
Hold
math.
on. Maybe I did something wrong. I could very well have
You
done
missed a
something wrong.
zero. Who
Hold on.
knows?
40.
Either way, it's still a case where we'd be in a much better position, kind of eventually moving that direction. Because we'd get to a point where, we could go, super, super low risk if we wanted as well. And that's kind of one of the things that we've been kind of looking at in the long term is like, do we eventually want to get there? Is it possible where we could get to the point where, we get to de-risk out of this entirely and still kind of pay out roughly the same amount? And I could be wrong with the math that I did there. I was doing it quick in my head, and it's a lot of zeros. So that's definitely a possibility there.
I'm doing more. Let me see.
Because
80.
I may have doubled it based on zeros and not carried over something correctly. But that's kind of like our
Okay. So if it did 5% a month, then it would be I forget what the amount was, but it would be 144,000 per NFT if it did 5% a month.
Maybe that's closer to where my brain had done the math on, is at 5%, and I forgot to like have it for for like the 2.5%, 3%. So yeah. But either way, that's kind of the mentality that we had with why we're looking at like this longer term play. Circling way back to the beginning here, and what we were talking about is that when we were doing the math on this, it's just there wasn't a good way to have it compound out if we were doing like monthly payments. And it ended up being a situation where like as we extrapolated this out, what should take us in this setup 7 to 10 years would have taken us closer to 15 to 20. And we weren't happy with that. Even with the way it would compound, if we were doing it every single month, it's just taking too much money out early on, and it doesn't allow enough of the baseline to grow. So coming full circle, that's kind of the reason why we went that route with it. That's the reason why we're looking at some of the long-term. It'll be paid yearly, Leher. But it's a case for us where we looked at what are some of the things that we can start planning now for like long-term longevity as well. And again, if we get to the point where like $100 million in assets on the NFT bot ends up being like, 0.0000001%, sure, let's keep trading it, Like if it's something where we're not going to move the market, I'm all for continuing to trade it. Like if we're doing $1 trillion in volume a day on Bitcoin, us trading 100 million is nothing,
Yeah.
So it's very much so a case where it's like it's all going to kind of depend. And we've been kind of doing a little bit of math, a little bit of predictive analysis out there with it as well. But there is a point in time, where we do want to pull back the risk on it and just kind of let it sit, let it do its thing, pay out the 90%, get people to the point where we're doing roughly about 6 figures every single year per NFT. And then from there, it'd be a case where, once that's happening, we can kind of decide if we want to, move and reallocate a little bit into reinvesting still, we can adjust kind of back and forth and the way that we want to move this around. But yeah, it's very much so something that we have built intentionally into our process here to allow us to adjust this as time goes on. And we're really excited about it. we're really excited as we kind of move through, getting out there what we're doing and, really changing the landscape of how people look at crypto as a whole and not just, some degen. Let's get a moonshot in 5 minutes. If you're not a part of it, you're shit out of luck because
Yeah.
I hate that stuff,
Yeah. I do
Don't
too.
get me wrong. I've been a hype moon boy about some of this stuff before. Um, one of my greatest trades of all time was turning $3 into over $800 in the whole Luna crash.
That's
You
pretty
know,
good.
that
Yeah.
was an absolutely bonkers trade, but
Yeah.
you know, that's not something where, I ever want to really kind of rely on having to be lucky in a situation like that. I'd much
Yeah.
rather just make my own luck by being smart, taking things a little bit slow, and just kind of, ensuring that we're getting the returns that we want. And I will say, this bull market has been absolutely fantastic for some of our other yield strategies as well too that I've been testing out.
Cool.
Not going to give any secret info away there, but we've seen upwards of like a doubling almost of the amount that I've been able to kind of test and return.
Cool.
Um, so as the Prisma token comes out and as the V2, comes out and is launched, and we're doing the payouts and stuff like that, we're actually doing way more than what I originally predicted month in and month out, which was anywhere from about, I think we talked about like 2.5 to about 7 to 8%. We're we're doing a little bit more towards the 8% side of things,
Awesome.
month in and month
Awesome.
out. So it's been wild,
Awesome.
you know.
Awesome. Going slow makes you go quick.
Yeah, so
Somehow that's how it works.
that's going to be a lot of 1 tokens, 2 tokens, and 3 tokens I see people buying in the future here,
Hmm.
Nice
Yep.
little monthly bump in people's
That's
dollar cost average going on is what I'm predicting. So,
that's going to be cool. And by the
yeah.
way, I did 4% with 100 million, and that is 108,000 per NFT. Just at
See?
4%. That is a
Yeah.
pretty
I think
moderately
I
low
mixed
risk.
up the 100,000 and the 70,000 and just put 2 numbers together in my brain. So I was like, I'm pulling stuff out like off the top of my head because I don't have everything open. But yeah, that makes sense. Like 76, 77,000 for 3%. 4% would be about 108, 105 to
Wait.
110 roughly. And then for the 5%, it'd be closer to like 140, 150. So that makes sense linearly, kind of
Yeah,
where it would
buddy.
be at. But
Yeah, buddy.
yeah.
Well, our let me see. Let's just read a few comments just to wrap this up.
Oh, sure.
Barry was saying he thinks the bull run is this summer. I have no idea.
Very possible. Very
Well,
possible. And that would be in line with kind of what we were talking about, where the halving happens in like April and then
yeah.
kind of pulls back a little bit and then just shoots off, by the time like end of May, June, July kind of happens in there. So yeah, that makes sense. I would agree that that's definitely a possible time frame for sure.
Let me see. Surfer Mark asking, has the balance of the funds had any market exposure?
In what way?
I
Oh,
think he means like, was any of it left in BNB?
no.
Yeah.
No, everything is sitting in USDT right now. So in terms of market exposure, that's not something that we're necessarily looking to do. Part of the reason for that is there's ups and downs within that market as well too, and we're not trying to dollar cost average
Mm-hmm.
as things are happening, and you can definitely run into some risky situations while being in um like a non-dollar amount token. So like if
Yeah.
we're in a long and Bitcoin tanks and we were also holding Bitcoin, that reduces the value of,
Yeah. Yeah.
the entire account as a whole and can be very, very risky. So
Yes.
yeah, that is not something that we're gonna ever really have from this point going forward. So yeah. Market exposure will be something where like if you want it, you'll have to grab some of the tokens that you want yourself, but we want to be extremely careful with the funds that we have on hand, and we never want to be, risky at all with any kind of setup in any way, shape, or form. So that'll always be in some form of stable coin in there.
Cool. Sorry, I had to mute myself because the baby's crying. Barry was saying inflation needs to be considered when calculating all-time high. Adjusted for inflation, where would the all-time high be? That's a good question. I don't know.
I think adjusted for inflation, I think somebody did the math on it. It'd be like 76 or 77,000, something like that. But people don't like looking at it in that aspect as well. Because again, I don't remember how much Bitcoin it is every single day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what it would be roughly adjusted for inflation. It's not a huge amount, but it's definitely a case where it's gone up a little bit. I might be overshooting that just a tad, though.
All right, just a sec. I am trying to pull up the Prisma ones on Tofu NFT because Barry was asking what they're going for right now. I think the cheapest one is 15 BNB, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's up there.
Prisma one with the blue check mark. So there is 4 for sale, and yes, by far the cheapest one. No. The cheapest one is 10 BNB. You can get one for a steal right now, $5,000.
Well, I think that's gonna be one of those things where I don't know how many NFTs are gonna sell right away. But what I will say in this aspect is it's not gonna hurt you to have them up there. One of the things that I do know that we are looking to do, and this is part of the reason why, we were talking about, at least on my side, about having our own, like in-house built NFT exchange. And so that way you wouldn't have to potentially pull it down, because I don't know how the NFT is going to react with the payout. And that's going to be something where I don't really want to test that with anybody else's NFT. So what I may do is I may throw up one of mine there at some point in time for some egregious amount, and then just have like a $1 payout go to it just to see what happens.
I got you. Yeah. I got you.
But it's a case where that is a worry that we kind of had on our side, is like, if you have your NFT up on tofu.net and you forgot about it and you're just expecting your payout to come through, we want to make sure that it actually like links back to your wallet. So when we're doing the airdrops, it goes right in your wallet. You don't have to worry about anything. We also want the DApp to be able to recognize that you have an NFT as well, so you get to see all the numbers and all the back end fun stuff that NFT holders get to see. So that's part of the reason why we kind of discussed it a little bit. It's not going to be something that would come out anytime soon, but there are a couple little things that we're noticing, that as these kind of are out there and we don't have some of these interconnections and things like that, that we could run into, some quality of life things that we want to kind of fix. So yeah, that's kind of the mentality behind that, more so than anything else. But we'll let anybody know if it comes to like payout time, with more than enough time if you need to pull it down off Tofu, to ensure that you get your payouts and the way that things work there. So please don't worry in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, there's a couple of things we've got to just kind of test out and make sure it works the way that we're expecting. Just keeping everybody on the up and up there. But that's part of the reason why we've talked, at least in the Prisma side of things, about maybe doing something with our own DApp associated directly to the NFTs, because we want to be able to do, some stuff without having to rely on, third-party sources. But then at the same time, we also want to make sure it's not going to cause any problems with those third-party sources as well. So
right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Sky Dreams is saying SLA on NFT DApp. What is that?
I don't remember exactly what SLA stands for, but it basically means like how long, like what's the expected time frame for it. And we are hoping to have that out the same time as the rest of the DApp, which should be out with the launch of V2. So probably end of April, early May is what we're looking at there.
Very cool.
So yeah, that is the goal. Effectively, it's going to work the same as like the charts.prisma.fund. We'll have a few other things in there as well too. Um, one of the things that we've been looking at is like expected payout in terms of like how much the bot has made so far this year. Like, what would your payout be? Historical payouts, stuff like that as well too. And again, part of that is, stuff that we want to have integrated into, a possible like NFT marketplace in that aspect as well. So somebody can come in, they can see, oh, you've had Prisma One NFT number 57. Number 57 is currently got an expected return this year so far or like returns year to date is $37,000 total year to total returns of all time is 123,000. And it's like that way it allows you to kind of, show how much
Yeah.
the NFT is made and, have all of that integrated and part of that process. And all of that we want to kind of have through the DApp as well. So,
Yeah.
like I said, marketplace would be quite a ways out, but it would be a case where we want to have, some of those values built in as well too, that we can then just attach onto some of the things on top of it. Because with tofu.net, we really just kind of have to explain, and somebody has to really dig deep and do their own research into kind of finding this stuff
Yeah.
out. But how much better would it be to just be like, yeah, I've put up NFT number 57, and this is how much it has been paid out so far. This is how much it's supposed to be paid out this year.
Yeah.
And somebody could be like, cool, so I want to sell this for $35,000 or whatever it would be.
It'll be, that's going to be so cool. It'll be like buying a going concern business, like something that's already making money.
Exactly. And that's kind of the idea behind that. So again, it's not something that we're going to have like immediately, but it's something we've kind of just been discussing on the back end because it really provides a lot of added benefits to holders to just kind of, build on top of, the NFT DApp, which we want to have a lot more data associated to, how the bot's doing, historical trades, everything like that, stuff we haven't really necessarily expanded on too much with the baseline NFT charts, and that we are planning on bringing there. But, there's a couple extra details we can provide here and there that we definitely want to do, especially on the NFT side. So, yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And I think Crypto Gale just answered what SLA stands for, is service level agreement, which basically, and that translates to, what I basically said, which was like, how long do you expect something to take? Yeah. So,
what do we say? We say ETA.
I don't know. ETA.
ETA.
Yeah, but the difference between like ETA and SLA is, with the service level agreement, this is like your promised time frame. Like, hey, your SLA for this is 3 days, so it will be done in 3 days. Versus like ETA, which is more like expected time something. I don't remember exactly. Or estimated time of arrival. Which is more fluid, I guess is the best way to kind of word that. So you could be there, estimated time of arrival could be April to May, but like if it ends up being a situation where it's like mid-May, still within ETA, but somebody would yell at me if I said the SLA is the end of April, and then we launch it in May. So,
they'd be SOL.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yes. So,
we've been going for almost an hour.
We have. I'll just rerun over the numbers for anybody that joined late, super quick here, and then I think we can probably just wrap it up and call it a day. So the NFT side of things did $2,053 for about a 2.4% return. Ray side did $527 for about a 3.9% return.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. The Ray side did 500. The NFT side did 2,000.
Did I get that backwards? I'm sorry. I'm just reading numbers quickly. Just brains fried from work today. So yes, the NFT side did 2,053. Ray did 527. So yep.
And what percent was that for the NFT side?
NFT side was 2.4%. and the raise side of things was 3.9%.
Cool. All right.
Longer compound time, so it had a little more to work with. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you as always, Moongod, for being here with us. We appreciate it, and thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, I think we can wrap this up, and hope everybody has a great week. And we'll see you in the Discord, and we'll see you next week when we do this.
See you next week, Oliver. See you guys.
See ya.